Can you please introduce yourself? What's your name
Yeah,
and what you do here?
H.P. Gubler. I came here in the early 80s, 83, 84, first season, as a ski instructor, like so many did, and happened to never leave. It was meant to be a few seasons, and yeah, 40 years later, I'm still here.
That's an exciting story.
Well,
That's how everybody ends up here.
a few people planned to come here for good, but
Oh yeah, okay.
yeah, I came, literally arrived in town in December, not even having an apartment, nothing. I had a job the next day and came up. And back in the days, you could arrive. I went to Ferrashwell for dinner, talked to people, found a place to stay the night. And it was really easy back then.
Wow, what's a life?
And now, like, if you haven't booked an accommodation 6 months beforehand, you'll never find anything. But back then, you could just literally walk into town, find a room.
Wow. So you were a ski instructor.
Yes.
Was it your passion, profession?
I was very keen on skiing for
Okay.
many years, and so it was a logical thing to do. I was doing it next to university, but then while I was up here, I decided not to go back to Bern and just stay here. And once I started spending the summers here, I realized the real potential of town, and yeah, I decided to make it my home.
So you're originally from Bern.
I was from Biel, but I
Oh, okay.
studied in Bern at the time,
Okay.
but I lived in Biel.
Did it feel like moving to a new country for you?
Absolutely not,
Okay.
because a lot of people at the time, a lot of my friends did the same thing.
Okay.
So the whole group of us were called the Beale Boys. It was like, yeah, up to 10 of us who came and left. Some of them stayed, some of them stayed long time, some still here, some left again. But it was a whole group of, yeah, Swiss German speaking boys.
So
And
you never felt alone or new or
no. And it's only 2 hours away if you ever want to drive back, but it didn't happen very often.
and so what was that you saw or felt here that made you stay?
Well, it's the mountains, obviously. I'm not much of a city person, I'm much more of an outdoors person. So when you come here and you have everything in front of your doorstep, especially sports, I'm into sports, so you can do everything without having to drive. Yeah, it's just everything's here. So it was a logical call to just make it home. I was very interested in water sports at the time, so the summers I often spent away at the beaches. As a base, there's nothing better if you're into the biking, the climbing, the skiing, all the stuff that this town offers. And back then, I started paragliding, which again was like this was the mecca of paragliding, so it felt like it was the right place as well. A lot of things seemed to be just felt right.
Many people I talk to talk about exactly that, the spirit of the area that feels right
Yeah,
and just makes you
yeah.
want to be here and stay.
I mean that has obviously changed a lot over the years, but back in, yeah, 80s, even 90s, it was definitely a spirit of you can do anything, you can be anyone, you do as you please. It was very welcoming. It was very international and totally different to what I grew up in. So that was what attracts people.
How do you think it's changed?
But it's changed through the influx of money that happened. It's changed through the sheer volume. The nice thing back in the days, it was if you'd go out in the evening, there was any given time. There's only one place to go. Like we didn't have phones to call and arrange everything. So if you want to go meet someone, you go to the Potmore 4 in the evening. And if your friends were out, that's guaranteed where they were. You didn't have to go to 5 bars to see if they're at the Farini or the Lumi it was just you go to the pub. If they're there, they're there. Later on is the Farm Club, and earlier on is the Ferraschwal, and that's where it stopped. And that's kind of a nice place to be in because yeah, you never feel like you've missed on anything because if it was happening in these places.
Do you every time has its kind of signature and character. Do you
Mm.
think that time is gone and it belongs to that particular era, or is it
100%.
something you miss?
No, it's gone.
It's gone.
But
It will
it's
never
gone.
happen.
It's not just that's not specifically for Verbier. That's just gone. I think through social media and the connectivity we have now, it's gone because you can never live the way it was done back in the days when it happened where it happened and that was it. Now it's whatever you do wrong, the next day someone has a photo of you doing a stupid thing. While back in the days, you could be stupid all night long. It didn't matter because if you weren't there, you didn't know about it. And afterwards, there's just rumors, and you could say, prove it. And now it's different. No one can live like freely like it was at the time.
So if we open your social media,
Yeah.
are you on social
Yes, but very limited. You ain't gonna find any.
media? No, we're not gonna find
No.
it.
No. Oh, you can try, but maybe from the old days, but not much.
But you're a legend here in Verbier.
Well, you say that.
We because everybody I talk to, they know who you are, and
Yeah.
you have such a central business and figure here to development of the whole place and to the direction of that development.
Mm.
So can you please talk more about how you became that?
Well, I've done literally after my years of ski instructing, I had a lot of. I went into many ways. Like I've been working for a ski company for K2 for 7 years. I've had a nightclub for a while up here. I've been in construction. I've had helped Craig with Icebreaker and started when that started. I've had distribution for bikes, and I got into 98 that bought into Ski Service, and then a lot of other shops came to it. So it's a mix of many different things, and still now it's not just the shops. I've got other things as well I'm
How
involved
did
in.
you how did you buy Ski Service? Why? How did you get the
Uh,
idea?
because the old owner Dale decided after many years it was enough, and heard he wanted to sell, and it was he was not even here. He was in Hawaii at the time, and literally was like, "That's how much it costs. That's what you get. If it's done by that date, it's yours, and if not, I'll keep it." And we got to do it. And he sent a fax at the time. Was a fax to the shop to his employees saying, "I'm not coming back. I sold." It was that easy, in a way.
Did you have a vision for the place when you took it over?
Not at all.
Did you know that it's an iconic place as
Yes.
well? Okay.
Yeah. I was like my whole time here was always like linked somehow because K2 was one of the brands that I worked for. It was also mainly sold through the shop, so I knew the shop really well. They always helped me out. I've been always going to Ski Service as a shop of reference. It was like a very modern shop, had a lot of brands that were coming out of the States that were not really available. They brought in, so it was a very cool place to be linked to. So when the opportunity came to take that on, felt like the right thing to do.
When you took it over, what happened then? Were you happy, overwhelmed, or just
Then
business as every day?
no, it was a very slow development. Basically, first it was just I had another little shop actually right here below where we are. It was the Rose Alp at the time, but then it grew over over the years. It changed a lot. Like the business, every few years we added shops to it, and it evolved from what it originally was. It was a well-going sports shop, and now it's a whole chain of different shops and businesses linked.
I wasn't aware that it's a chain of shops.
Was we've got like just here Patagonia and Peak and North Face and board riders now. We've got shops down the valley in Zermatt.
Okay.
So it moved on, and now we're part of an even bigger group with shops all over Switzerland.
So, did you have this vision for progression,
No,
or it just
no,
organically happened?
never ever did we
Never.
think
Okay.
it was going to end up like this. No,
Is it
it's just
more than you ever imagined, or it's just
it's different. Like
okay?
if you have no expectations, you
You don't know what
You don't know what's going to come, but it definitely took a turn that I wouldn't have planned. Just, yeah, business, a lot of things, just you take them as they come, take opportunities, and they just happen to go that way.
Are you
And
happy with the way it is now?
yeah, now we're in a good place. It's the business is solid. The the workload is doable, and I'm almost retired anyway. So
Tell me about the other changes in Verbier you've seen over the years. We talked about Pub Montfort being the meeting place, and what are the other changes? Housing,
well,
obviously.
obviously the whole housing situation's changed so radically that it used to be affordable for really anyone to come and spend the season. So that made the people who came here from basically a lot of ski bums, a lot of people from any class, anything you want. If you want to live in town today, you either have to work really hard or you have to have parents or someone who gives you a place to stay. And the self-made, you can't just come up here and say, "Oh, I'll spend a couple of years, do nothing." You have to work. And back in the days, there's a lot of people who came to ski and just to ski. So you could every morning meet people to go skiing because they did nothing else. Day like today with a lot of snow, you didn't have to call anyone. It's just a 8:45. You were at Metro and you went skiing. And it was a very simple life. And that's definitely also something that's gone. Because now, well, when's your day off? When people trying to arrange how they can go and ski together, because not many people, unless they're very rich, are just going to hang here for a season and ski. And at the time, it was the 20-year-olds, like the kids, we were all young and had fun. But now the average age has gone up as well because in order to afford to live here, you got to come with pockets full of money, and those people are usually a little bit older. So you don't see a lot of young kids unless their parents have chalets here and allow them to live that life. But otherwise, it's difficult.
Yeah, but there is not much facilities or education for teenagers at all. There are some kids, there are several
Well,
schools,
that's
and
why
there
they've
are
all
some
moved.
older people.
They've
That's
all
why
moved
they all
down the
move
valley.
out. Yes.
Like they all used to live up here. The danger thing is when you start moving local kids out of town because it's too expensive up here. The next thing that is going to disappear is the schools, because if there's no more kids to go to them, they close. And then they move down the valley as well, because that's where the kids now live. So then they established private schools up here, which again attract a completely different kind of family, international wealthy families. So the place how it used to be is no longer. Those old local families, they've moved down the valley with the kids, with the schools, everything's shifted. And up here established a new, totally different kind of school system and family system.
What's your definition of being local?
Local is, to me, anyone local is people who've lived here for a longer period of time. Locals, as in who their grandparents lived here, you don't find them anymore. Locals now is, it's even, for me, I would go as far as like even expats who've moved here 20 years ago, but who've made it their home. They're as much locals as the people who were born here, because you share the same place.
Don't you think it's the same tendency all over the world? Because the borders are more or less open. Well, they're open and closed and open again, but they're more open than before. It's easier to move across cultures than
Absolutely,
before.
and it's funny. I was in at the climbing wall yesterday and talking to some Swiss Germans, and I asked them where they're from because I could tell from how they spoke, more or less to exactly precisely where they grew up. We had this discussion like it used to be really easy to tell where someone was from just by the way they talk, but now because people interact so much, it's become harder and harder. Like when I was a kid, I could tell by 5K left or right of my home village if someone lived this side or that side, just because he spoke slightly different. But that's all that is disappearing. And it was probably the same here, that the locals would know, oh, he's from Lourdes or he's from Saint-Branché or from Martigny. But I don't think that's going to last. Or it's probably gone already.
It's a lot that is gone, but that's kind of nature of life, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You lose
Change
some
is
things, you
the
get
only
other things.
constant.
So
What's good now?
lift system is 100 times better.
Yeah.
We used to wait for days up there, just in lift lines, and nothing was going on. Like to get from Runette up to Atla used to be half a day. I don't know why back then we didn't just start walking up, because it would have been faster. But that today, no one accepts more than a 15-minute wait, because we're just impatient and everything has to move. But back then it was often faster to take a lift from Runette all the way down to Sharp and up the other side again to get to Atla than it was to wait for the little lift. And that today, people would leave immediately. It's just not possible. So yeah, the lift system, way better. The piece, I remember first years, people would pick their days off, those who worked in sports shops, for example, according to the days when we knew they groomed the slopes, because it wasn't groomed every night. There were certain areas were only this time, this day of the week. And now, like every morning, it's perfection. And that's again, that is improvement. It's gone a lot better, but it had its own charm before, because it was wild. It was, yeah, like I think today there's still a few resorts in the world that stay that way, but not many.
Do you think it's overcrowded here now?
It's overcrowded in a different way. It was up on the mountain. It was more overcrowded back in the days, because we we had a lot more people waiting in lines, so the pistes were a lot less crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So once you got to ski, it was fine. And now, when you look at the amount of people that are actually coming down from Atla to Runette, that to me is overcrowded.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the bottom and you're up. So when we used to do 5 runs, now you do 30 runs. It's no problem. So which is the better overcrowded? Anyone's guess.
Does it mean that people have become more fit? I mean, 5 runs against 30 runs, that's a big difference.
I don't think they're more fit today. It's the equipment's changed a lot as well.
Yeah, okay.
Like a few years ago, we did a ski day with the old 210 skis and the ski backside Mo 4. And I can tell you at the end of a run, you feel your legs and everything. Well, today with the bigger skis, it's just so much easier. So I don't think, in general, we're more fit. We walk a lot more, or I at least do a lot more touring and walking than before. So for me, I'm probably fitter now than I have been in that sense. But on the purely downhill skiing, I don't think it's changed that much.
There are obviously changes in the way the mountain is outside the season, the winter season, between the seasons and summer.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. The summer has definitely changed the most, I would say. We had a few really good summers in the early 90s when the paragliding came on, and like Claude Lama and Philippe Bernard organized these, like we had the World Championships in paragliding and other really fun competitions that attracted a lot of people. And the summer was short but extremely intense and very, very busy. And then with the biking now, we've got a very much extended summer. Like it runs from June through October, is what they call bike season. And that has changed town immensely, because the lifts are running, almost all the lifts are running in the summer, and it brings much more of a year-round feel to town. We're still, May is still a dead month, but other than that, I think 10, 11 months a year, it's very livable here. Back in the 80s, 90s, May, June was shut down. Everything was shut. When the first, about every 10 years, I guess, or more, the pub used to have a closing party at the end of April, and they would open again for the winter, but that's it. Like no one would consider opening anything in the summer because it was just not worth it.
How did you survive?
Very well. You
That
don't
was the
need
best time.
you don't need these things. We had other things, like I said, when they organized these competitions, it was the liveliest place I ever remember in the summer. I don't think we've ever had summers like that many people and that much action and fun like it was back then. Unfortunately, they didn't do it anymore, but it was very popular and it was good times for the summer as well.
Let's talk more about fun.
Yeah.
So the fun back then, is it different from the fun these days?
No, because the fun is in at the time for us. It was what you do. It was fun to go flying or to go biking with our first mountain bikes that came out, with a lot of things like that. And that fun hasn't changed. The equipment's changed. The bikes are much better now. They get motors and we get further. But then we were younger and fitter, so it didn't really matter. But you can basically all the outdoor stuff that this place offers, that hasn't changed. Just the options are bigger now because we have more. Now we have an indoor climbing wall for bad weather. Back then we had a nice pool, which we don't have anymore. But I don't think it's better or worse. It's just it's nature and it's stayed the same. Yes, there was probably more snow back then and more days like today and less rain, but the overall hasn't changed.
You said you didn't have any vision for ski service, and do you have any vision for Verbier in general, or the place, or you don't think about it?
I don't think I can influence the future of this whole town anyway. So take it as it comes. For me, I'll enjoy it as long as I like what it offers. But if it goes too extreme in something, it doesn't have to be home forever.
When we talk about the future or the changes, you say, oh, you don't influence that. But from my perspective of a newcomer, well,
Mm-hmm.
6 years here only, you're a very central figure in the development, because with your businesses shaping the trade and the exchange of service to people and back, you directly shape the place.
Yeah, but that's a very, very, very small aspect of town.
Isn't it the
It's
biggest
retail.
aspect?
No, to me, the much bigger ones is like what the biggest influence for anything is tell everybody what they are planning to do, and you could see that when discussions came up with rail taking over and things like that. The other thing for me is like what the commune does with sports. If I had things to say, there's no way I would have let a sports center be dead for that many years, and a lot of all the little things go ahead, like development, private chalets, all that comes up. But big projects never seem to happen here. Look how long it's taken for this new lift. How long? Yeah, the sports center's been what feels forever. We've had that in lockdown. Down in Schwab was going to take. We'll probably never see that development unless someone comes up with a really genius idea. But people will just oppose everything, and that slows development down radically. I'm not saying it's always bad. In a lot of ways, it's right. A lot of ideas people had, thank God, someone blocked them. Like back there was a plan to build a big hotel block and complex up at Saint Christophe back in the days, with a big road that goes through the forest and everything. Thank God, people blocked that, or one guy blocked it at least, and it never happened. But if you let everything go, it can take a very bad turn. But on the other hand, things that, for me, the classic example is a sports center. It was there and we had it. Shouldn't be that hard to rebuild, but it seems to be impossible.
Why do you think is that?
I don't know. And the problem is the lack of information. I mean, nothing is properly communicated. Is it opposition? Is it bad planning? Is it bad decision making? We're all a bit in, yeah, you hear things, oh yeah, it's going to start again. No, it doesn't start. Now I have to knock it down again. open communication from the commune would be helpful for things like that. At least tell everybody we knew why the lifts weren't moving on. But when it comes to commune, a lot of they present something in the beginning and then you never get the follow-up.
Isn't it interesting that a commune of a tiny village that is really dependent on the opinion of inhabitants, directly dependent, because that opinion can shift and then the money flow will shift.
Yeah.
And that there is so little, at least visibly, collaboration between the people who shape the community and the community itself.
Yeah. And I wish it was a lot of things would be more transparent and clear. Like if you include a lot of people and show them what's done. Examples when they rebuilt this road here, when they made it all nice and everything. If you know exactly beforehand what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, stage by stage, it's no problem. People accept it. But when you do something and no one knows what's going on, again, example, sports center, and people just shake their head and go like, what is this? How can 5 years later we still look at some raw concrete and see no one do anything on it, and you get no information why and how it's going to shape? It's a shame that
Is it
it's a lack of transparency.
Is this lack of transparency just something local, or is it normal in Switzerland, or is just kind of legacy from old days? Nothing was transparent before?
I don't know. I think it's more local. Definitely in other parts of Switzerland, it's different. But how it's all, I guess it depends on who's in charge at the moment at the commune and how they decide to communicate and involve people. I think when it comes to things like the sports center, it's also just hiding problems, not talk about it, because obviously some people have made big mistakes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be where it is, and a cost that's gone through the roof that no one exactly knows why. It's suddenly way more expensive. Like if I talk to people who are in the building and tell them what kind of money gets spent on that, they go like, "Why are you building the new football stadium in Zurich? Plus. It's just out of hand."
If we give you full executive power over decisions,
yes,
which is a really interesting thought to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first 3 things you would do and change?
That's a very difficult question. 3 things you should to change. What would we change?
Or improve? We just talked about sports center, maybe rebuilding that.
Oh, I mean, that's something that opportunity was 10 years ago when it burned down. We had the chance to very quickly make something really nice. And that was
10 years ago?
not far off, I guess. It feels like a very long time ago. When that, yeah, when it suddenly was gone, like within a day, and everybody thought, yeah, there's 2-3 years and it'll be rebuilt. And it feels, it might not be 10 years, but it's not far off that we've had nothing. A lot of these things to change, I think a lot of it should have been done a long time ago. It's late now, and I think we've missed a lot of opportunities to make things better up here. Like if 30 years ago they would have had a vision of blocking a lot of things, for example, make hotels stay hotels, because we were lacking hotel beds compared to other resorts where this is all based on apartments and nice apartments. But we know apartment owners have the choice to come and leave as they like. So this place has a lot of up and downs over the year, even the season. While I know from like Zermatt, where we have a shop as well, it's much more steady because they have basically hotels, and the hotel does everything to fill a room every night they're open. And if necessary, with price adjustments, with offers, while apartments will never have to do that. So we have crazy, look at the difference here between a Saturday and a Wednesday, which makes it very hard for a lot of businesses. Most of our restaurants struggle because they could all be double booked every Friday and Saturday night, but then 3-4 days a week they're half empty, Again, you go to Zermatt and every night's the same. They're all full. So it's much easier to have an interesting offer because it works. Here, we're very expensive because we have to make the money in very few days. And it's the same for all the businesses here. It's very much an up and down. So if you, back in the days, would have said, okay, hotels, any hotel is a hotel, the price to change hands of a hotel would be much lower because you can't do anything but a hotel with it. But in the meantime, a lot of hotels got bought up, turned into apartments and sold as apartments. So you take these beds away, and a lot of people made a lot of money on the way. But if you block the existing and make it therefore more attractive in the future to run it as what it is, we could have an attractive hotel offer, which we don't anymore.
Don't you think we're now discussing this just more broad challenge of this place being a seasonal place and just challenges of running a business?
Seasonal alone is not really a problem because the season is still long, but if the season itself seems to have seasons within it, makes it much harder as well. It used to be seasonal as well. It was a winter season, that's it. But at least the winter season was a bit more steady because people would book weeks and not 3-4 days or 2 days. But that's general also how we travel, how we do things. Everything's much shorter. Not many people come on a 2-week ski holiday anymore. They take a few days to pick the right days and everything. Things have changed. But again, if you base it on a business with a hotel, they try and even that out. Well, with luxury apartments, it's a little bit more difficult. But a lot of these things happened a long time ago. It's the same with like all the businesses and the shops. If a shop is a shop, then it's got a different price to an apartment. But if you can turn this into an apartment, suddenly they think the price is based on apartment square meter prices, which makes it very hard for like a little cafe to run and be profitable. It's really difficult because they pay rent that is at the same people will not accept to pay 8 francs for a coffee, but at the end of the day, that's what it turns out to be because they have to support this insanely high rent. And then the same people who push these prices up, who've bought these really expensive apartments, if you charge them 50 francs for a pizza, they go like, what is this place? So,
is there a way out of this? What can we do with it? Because it seems to be accelerating a bit.
It is. Because the problem is money attracts money. So the more high-end chalets and owners we have, the more want to come. And they push the price even further because the offer is not growing. So it kind of just keeps going. It's not. That's why I said the best way would have been to lock at least the central. Same thing with like Zermatt does as well. You have every apartment block you build, you have to have a certain a number of apartments which are designated for staff for living with cheap rent and not out for speculation. So if the price increase can't happen in those, the rent will stay low because it's not speculative. But that's again something that should have been done a long time ago. Now I can't even blame anyone because you couldn't see what's going to happen. Now in hindsight, it's really easy to say, well, if in the 80s we would have made a rule that every construction has to have 2 apartments for staff, would have been very easy to do.
But in Zermatt, they did make this.
They have a lot more things like this, and a lot. Some apartments are like out of the speculation. The prices will never go up. Rent is reasonable. They still have a problem with staff accommodation as well. It's not like they've done everything perfect, but they've seen it come on a much earlier time and managed to change things a little bit.
Do you think it's just difference in like visions of the people who were making decisions at that time, or is just difference in also places? Zermatt is a bit more iconic, and it will always attract more people.
Yeah, well, it attracts different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Very like a whole range. While here is slightly more specific.
Yeah, And I wouldn't even say I'd want to swap with what Cermak gets. I mean, they get a lot of day tourists. They get a lot of people who just want to see a mountain, take a picture and leave, which is not what you want either. Like every time I go there, I'm blown away by the amount of people. Every 20 minutes, there's a full train load going up. And then you get in the train here from Schablab or from Martigny, and you go, oh, that's day and night. Our train comes like once an hour, and there's every 20 minutes, and it's full. But it's the same way full when they leave. They literally come up and go down again. But it makes for a busy town, and it's always the same. People attract people. They think they're at the right place because everybody else is there as well. I'm always amazed here. It seems like people want to come on the busiest days because they like to be in a busy place because it makes them feel like we've chosen the place where everybody else wants to be, so it must be right. When you could come, the quiet times as well.
What would you advise and recommend to new people coming here? Because there will be, some of them will be locals, some of them will be shaping the community just like you do now.
Yeah.
So that we don't say 30 years later, oh, we should have done this.
Yeah. No, but I would definitely recommend anyone who has a chance to come and take his luck, see what they like, and at the end of the day, it's do what you enjoy doing. As long if you enjoy skiing, start work for a ski school, do your seasons, work for a bar, nightclub, whatever you like to do, and after a few years, you hardly anyone will stay doing that for a whole life. You'll see where it takes you, but there's a lot of opportunities here to do interesting things, and it's not many places you can live an outdoors mountain life and have all these options that get offered here. Because now with remote work, with technology that we have, there's no reason not to be here for anyone.
What can we all collectively do here today so we don't regret 30 years later that we haven't done it? What is it? One thing.
Go outside.
Go outside more.
Go play.
Go play.
Because that's the one thing you're going to regret is not having, especially when you've had the chances. So many people go, oh, it'd be nice skiing today, but I can't because of this and that. If you can, do it. And same in the summer. If you can, go outside.
So basically living your life today, here and now, fully.
Yeah.
That's a very Zen advice.
Because you never know what you're going to have next week, so
that's very correct.
Do it this week.
Thank you.
Pleasure.